Although Africa has taken big strides in terms of women's representation in the workplace, many believe the continent is still far from achieving gender equality. To help us unpack what needs to be done to close the gender gap, I'm joined by Michelle Olckers, who's the co-CEO at Mazars. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us this evening on Newsnight. Now, from what I understand, statistics are showing that about 14% of women actually occupy positions at a board level. So why does this continue to persist across the continent, and why is it that this phenomena is so prevalent?
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I just want to say Happy International Women's Day to all the women out there. Yes, this is something that has been spoken about now for many years, and it hasn't changed significantly. So you can start saying what needs to be done and why is this still happening. So if you look at Africa specifically, the gap is still very large. And the reasons for this is probably attributable to a few reasons. One of those is the fact that traditionally in Africa, men were the ones who made the decisions, and women were seen as the homemakers. And women haven't been so easily integrated into the workplace as men have dominated it for a long time. And I think that, men seem to consult with men when they want to make a decision, and sometimes that makes, women feel left out. When women are in positions of authority and power and they've made their way up to the top, sometimes they will feel marginalized because they're in the minority. So it is difficult for them to make their mark and to put themselves out there. And then sometimes there's the gender pay gap, which does still exist, and results in women feeling like the pressure that they have to put themselves through for the recognition and reward is not sufficient. And sometimes that doesn't create an environment for women to really make their way through. We also note that there's some sectors where in Africa we are very bad. Public sector has made some inroads but is still probably made better inroads in the private sector, but the private sector still lags behind a lot, with very few women in executive and board level positions in some companies in South Africa.
And in those women who are in positions of power, those women that are in positions of influence, are they doing enough to open the door for the other women to come through? In other words, the reason why we have so few women at a level of seniority or at board level in any corporation perhaps could also be on behalf of the women, where women are not opening up the door and saying, listen, I'm going to make an actual decision to find more women so that more women can actually fill positions of influence. And I'm going to be the one that champions the cause for more women to be empowered as an empowered woman. So sometimes could it be that us as women are shooting ourselves in the foot by wanting to be the queen bee at the top of the food chain, leaving all other women at the bottom?
Yes, I think that that is a problem in many companies. And, as much as women will say they don't want to be the only one at the top, I think they forget quite quickly what it was like to get there and the road that they took. And I think that women really need to support each other more. I think women who've reached the top and have found themselves in positions where they have authority and they've got the ability to influence really need to do more. So that talent pipeline needs to be focused on by those women. They need to nurture the women in the business and really give them the opportunities to make their mark. Because once again, like they felt when they made their way through the ranks, they didn't want to be recognized just because they were women. They wanted to show that they had the right skills to do the job.
And when we're speaking about climbing up the corporate ladder or jungle gymming up the corporate ladder, are we finding that the younger women are actually having the same aspirations of getting to the top as the older generation? Or are we finding that younger women have got different types of ambitions which are expressed in a different manner, and therefore we're finding that the statistics persist, especially at board level, because many of them may not necessarily want to be at that board level and have options of becoming a YouTube star, for example, as a young woman?
I think that the younger women of today are much better at knowing what they really want. I think the women of yesterday used to confront and fight with that stereotyping that was out there about the fact that as soon as you have a baby and you starting to start a family, then suddenly there's so much more pressure on you to make a decision of whether you're going to stay in the workplace. Today, I think the younger women have a better handle on how to do more things at once and to put their views out there in terms of the fact that they can have more. But I think as well in the corporate world, as you said, there's so many options for women in different kinds of businesses and different kinds of industries that sometimes being the head of a company or head of a division isn't something that those women are necessarily looking out to be, and they can make their mark in other ways.
Michelle, we're going to leave our conversation there, but thanks so for joining us on Newsnight this evening, shedding some light in terms of the realities as we celebrate International Women's Day, and of course those realities are the realities that are confronted by women across the African continent.